It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
All right, here we go. It's the Monday edition of the Las Vegas Sports Line. Wildcard weekend is in the archives. Road teams had a party. We're going to talk about that with Chuck Esposito from Sunset Station. He'll be coming up in just a moment with us. And we'll do our Monday afternoon quarterback session on the 4 games that took place this weekend. Plus, a look ahead to this weekend's games as we're down to the NFL version of the Elite Eight. And, of course, that big game tonight, the championship for all the marbles in college football. One more time, Clemson and Alabama. Very quickly, I just have to say this off the top. You're finding out very quickly, whenever there's an event like what took place with the Bears that's national in scope, Marco DAngelo's here. I'm Dave Cokin. R.A. Platinum's at the controls. You get people who know nothing about the event commenting on it. And Twitter today is a great example of this because now there's been some really harsh stuff directed toward Cody Parkey. And believe me, I'm not defending these idiots who want to threaten his family and stuff like that. I mean, they're morons, okay? But I love the response as well, where now it's been determined that, yes, the kick was tipped, okay? And so you've got people who clearly know nothing about football who are saying, well, see that? The kick was blocked. It wasn't his fault. Yeah, it was. He kicked the ball too low. So it was his fault. That's why it got tipped. Okay, he missed. That's the way it goes. A lot of us thought he might miss after he drilled the first one. Yeah. Great timeout. Used that last timeout wisely. The coach did, and he came through too quickly on the second one. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, there's two schools of thought when you hear the whistle blow. Some people say don't kick it because of that reason. They're superstitious. You make the first one. Other people say, well, that's a practice swing, and he hit it straight and true, right down the middle, right down the fairway. Yep. First one, yeah.
Didn't count.
Second one, yeah.
Well,
but how about the double doink though? I mean,
the guy has not had good luck on goalposts.
You couldn't try to hit as many uprights as he has hit this year.
I thought when I first looked at it, because it's not three-dimensional on TV, and I thought when it came back in that it went. I thought it went through.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, but it did.
It did not. No, it went the wrong way. Chuck Esposito joins us on Mondays to rehash everything that took place from both an analysis and a betting standpoint. Hi, Chuck. What's going on?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. It was an interesting weekend, I think, all around for kickers. Not only with the Bears, but I think with the Ravens and the Seahawks as well. Tucker misses that 50-yarder before the half where, they would have just needed a field goal then to tie, not that touchdown late to win. And then the situation with Janikowski causes the Seahawks to have to go for 2 twice. Actually has the Seahawks cover because of that.
Yes.
And then they're not able to accurately do an onside kick, at least an attempt one, because their punter hadn't done one before and made it an easy kind of catch for the Cowboys to end the game. So kicking came into play, I think, in 3 of the 4 games.
It did. Let's talk about the games where the road teams won 3 out of 4 straight up, and they all covered the money. And from an overall betting standpoint, that's normally a situation where you say, boy, the books must have cleaned up. But that really wasn't the case. It was, an okay weekend?
Yeah, it was an okay weekend. I think we talked about it, guys, that this weekend really set up well for value on the dogs. Last year you had underdogs go 9-1 in the playoffs. This year, I think when you look at the AFC, I think many people felt nobody wanted to see the Colts. There was definitely value on them. They had some successful history against the Texans, Luck and T.Y. especially. So no one wanted to see the Colts, and action was clearly on the Colts, both with the points and the money line. And I think when you look at the Chargers, as good as they've been away from home, their only loss was really at home, although they were the underdog against the Rams in their home stadium. They're undefeated on the road. And, for my money, and I think a lot of other people right now, they might be the best team in the AFC. They had played the Ravens a couple of weeks ago. I thought they were a little vanilla in that game, knowing they may have to meet the Ravens again. And I think it's hard with the Ravens because if you stop Lamar Jackson from running, you in essence stop the Ravens' offense. He had 6 yards passing going into the fourth quarter. So I think there was tremendous value on both dogs in the AFC, and the public and the guests backed those two sides.
Chuck, is obviously with all these power dogs that, three with them winning outright and such, how did it affect the Chicago missed field goal at the end of the game? That is the only one as far as teasers go where, you could have went both ways with that teaser, so at least it killed one side of the teaser. But did that help you guys more than I think?
It definitely helped, Marco, going into that game because of the way the weekend, the first three games unfolded. Clearly, the best-case scenario for us was the Eagles winning the game outright, just what you said. And I mentioned it earlier when I did another segment, is that you're able to kill some of the teasers on the Bears with that outcome. But overall, just kind of a so-so weekend. And, I thought the bettors did well and thought there was a lot of value on all four underdogs this weekend.
So let's do some Monday afternoon quarterbacking and look at these games as they unfolded. Colts and Texans, and somebody will have to answer this for me, and I haven't heard a good answer yet. Look, you're getting killed in man coverage. Why don't you go zone? They finally, I think, tried some in the second half, but by that time the issue's out of hand. It's 21-0. Could have been 28-0 because on the interception that Luck threw, he actually missed Inman, who was wide open on the other side of the field for what would have been another score. I just don't understand why NFL teams are so slow to make adjustments at times, and the Texans killed their chances of winning this game by staying in man defense.
They did, and for whatever reason, the Colts clearly have the Texans' number, and you could see that from the minute the game started. The confidence level, the completions to T.Y. Hilton out of the gate. I think they set the stage so early in that game that you took the Texans out of their game somewhat. I didn't think the Colts would have so much success running the ball against the Texans' defense. They did. It opened up so much more for Andrew Luck. You look at Deshaun Watson on the other side, losing Demaryius Thomas, losing Will Fuller. Really, he had Hopkins to throw to, who had gotten banged up in that game. They weren't able to run the ball. Watson takes a lot of sacks. It just set the stage for pretty much an easy Colt victory once they got out to that big lead.
That's the first time that Houston has been in that position, being down that many points, and we see it with the young quarterbacks. And the other stat that we didn't talk about yet, first year starters in the playoffs, 0-3. Yeah, for this weekend. We've just, because they've done so well, the rookies, right, and we look at these rookies differently now. It's a different ball game when you get to the playoffs, and that was my one concern with Trubisky, but he didn't have a bad game. But you saw Watson, and, of course, when we talk about the Baltimore game, we're really going to talk about that one. Deshaun Watson hadn't been in that position all year, and he struggled with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think he really did struggle. I think once they fell behind, though, again, it changed the dynamics of that team. I thought when they went on that roll in the middle of the season, you saw Lamar Miller was able to run the ball. He looked like a different guy after Week 5. Alfred Blue was in the mix. You had Will Fuller healthy early on, then you added Demaryius Thomas. The whole team seemed to be different. Their MO is not from playing from behind like that. And, again, you're talking about a young quarterback who did take a lot of sacks during the course of the season and was ill-prepared to kind of make that run when they needed to. Colts didn't do anything special in the second half, but they were so far ahead, and that defense kind of turned the tables a little bit on the game. It was kind of an easy victory for them, I think, from there on.
Yeah, moving to the second game, Chuck, and there's one guy in the studio smiling about it, and there's one in here, and there's one not.
I had Seattle plus 2.5, which I'd played early in the week, and I had the wrong side, and I got paid. Yeah, sometimes it works that way.
I had that.
I think the Cowboy or the Seattle had no business covering in that game, but of course, when the injury occurs to Janikowski, it changes their thought process, and they have to go for two twice. And that's what enables them to cover. I was a little surprised they did the first time just because I felt usually you feel like the punter could at least make an extra point or you have somebody to do that. But it just was kind of a bizarre finish the way that one worked out, and it was another underdog that covered. If you had Seattle, I think you had no business winning and covering that game, but they did. I didn't like their approach to try to run the ball against the Cowboy defense that much, but they were able to stay close enough to have a chance. And, unfortunately, the onside kick was something we don't need to talk about again because it really wasn't an onside kick. But they did get the money covering that 2.5.
So moving forward, Dak Prescott, he made some throws in that game that were Right. I mean, he dropped it in where only the receiver could get it. I mean, he impressed me in that game. They got things going in the second half.
Well, we talked about it, guys. There was a lot of scrutiny and negative publicity about the trade for Amari Cooper. But, he came out of college as an excellent route runner with good hands, and I think in his rookie year he played really well. After that, it kind of was a little bit of a downward arrow. But in that offense with Ezekiel Elliott and a mobile quarterback and some young wide receivers, when you have Beasley in the slot and then some of the young wide receivers they have in Gallup, it really has opened things up for Amari Cooper. And, for Dallas's money, I think giving up the number one was money well spent. It really has changed that offense, and I love that defense. When you've got linebackers like Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith who can run from sideline to sideline, and then you can mix in that defensive line, I think it's a Cowboy team that at least has the arrow pointing up right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Chargers and Ravens, and this was a crazy game because the Chargers had all kinds of chances to just blow this thing wide open, and they could not put the ball in the end zone. Credit the Baltimore defense for standing tough when they had to and keeping their team in the game. The other side of it, of course, the refusal for his reasons. John Harbaugh is not going to take Lamar Jackson out of the game. It tells me two things. One, he had no confidence at all that Flacco could go in and do anything. And secondly, he just made up his mind that Jackson's going to be the quarterback. It overshadowed a couple of other things that I thought were really bad decisions by Harbaugh. Worse, they're down 12-3. You got a 4th and 1 at the 33-yard line or somewhere in that area. You got to go. You got to go in that situation. You can't kick a field goal, and then they missed the field goal. And that pretty much, to me, sealed their fate.
Yeah, I didn't, again, these two teams had played late in the season. I thought the Chargers were a little vanilla in that game. Even after the game, you could almost sense that from Phillip Rivers, that he expected there was a good possibility that these two teams may meet again. And you're right, the Chargers had many opportunities to put this game away early on, but a credit to the Ravens defense. And I'm not sure why they didn't go to Joe Flacco. I'm not sure it's not that they didn't have confidence in Flacco. I think in Flacco's case, it would have been a major audition had he brought them back for a team like the Cardinals or the Jaguars or the Giants that might be in the market for a quarterback. Maybe it's just that, hey, Lamar Jackson's our quarterback of the future. We want to get him as much experience as we possibly can. But this is a quarterback that had 6 yards passing in the fourth quarter. They actually had more punts than they had first downs. And he threw a lot more yards than Rivers did in that game. But it was a product of the score and the prevent defense that they were playing at that point. And to me, it still was a head-scratcher that they were so close in that game that he never made the move to Joe Flacco.
I have my own philosophy of why they didn't. And after hearing the post-press game, they didn't. I don't think they wanted to put him in and risk him getting hurt and then be on the tab for the contract next year. They just didn't want to risk that because he's gone. That shows to me he's gone. They're going to trade him, cut him, whatever. Lamar Jackson is the quarterback. But you have to make that move. I don't care who your quarterback is. This is the playoffs. You're supposed to bring him in. He was doing nothing. And don't say, well, look what he did in the fourth quarter, because the Chargers went totally into prevent, and he made that one circus
they
throw.
almost prevented themselves from winning in the process.
Yeah, he was way off. I mean, when you look at him throwing the ball, and I even wonder long term, I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I think collegiately he was one of the most exciting players, to watch. And I still think he has a tremendous amount of potential at that level. But it's obvious that his game is being able to run the ball. And San Diego had Derwin James shadow him. He was able to force him out of bounds on that play before the field goal. So I think with more and more tape and with each game that he plays, defenses are going to have a different approach to him. He's going to have to become somewhat of a pocket quarterback. He's going to have to be able to throw not only when a team's in a prevent defense, but early in the game. So I think it's something they're really going to have to work on moving forward, because they've got some talented running backs. You get Alex Collins back. You've got Gus Edwards. You've got some talented backs, Dixon. But you have to develop more of that pocket presence, I think, if they're going to have success with him moving forward and him at that level.
And as we said, Dave, when we did the podcast Thursday night, this was the first time that Lamar Jackson faced a team for the second time. Big difference.
They defensed him a lot better in this game.
There's a lot more tape out there, guys. I mean, we've seen it with other quarterbacks who were more mobile type quarterbacks. I think it's something that they're going to have to understand and realize, because that defense is awfully good. And, they just couldn't do anything offensively for basically 3 quarters.
Chuck, the final game on the card, obviously the most drama to it with the end